Hello and welcome back to Squeeze Bazaar. Today we're going to be going over the spoilers of Innistrad Midnight Hunt because at this point all the rares and mythics have been revealed, and so we're going to go through them with you guys today and have a look what they consist of. So let's start off with white. So the first card here, Curse of Silence. I personally really like it. I find it to be a really good card for one white mana. So it's Aura Curse, like we talked about before. So these Aura Curses are pretty unique to the plane. So you can enchant a player, basically. So when it enters the battlefield, you choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name enchanted player cast cost 2 more to cast. And whenever enchanted player casts a spell with the chosen name, you may sacrifice Curse of Silence. If you do, draw a card. I find that to be a lot of things for one white mana. So I really like this card. Fateful Absence here for instant speed removal. Little drawback is that you're going to be giving your opponent a clue token, letting him sacrifice that to draw a card later down the game. However, yeah, destroy creature, planeswalker, instant speed, still a really good card. The Sungold Sentinel here. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, I can exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. It's got the Coven ability here, so basically you can pay and give your creatures protection of the color of your choice. So that's, again, a lot of text here for 2 mana. That's big cards. And the Brutal Guitar for a werewolf here in the last slot. When it enters or transforms, you can exile target creature an opponent controls. And if it becomes night, he'll switch into a Moonrage Brute, a werewolf here with first strike and a ward, meaning you'll have to pay 3 life if you want to target it with one of your spells. So yeah, those are for the first slots. Then we got the Adrenaline Resplendent Cathar. So a legendary creature here, Human Knight, Vigilance. So that's pretty good. So its power is equal to the number of creatures you control. Whenever you attack, for each opponent, create a white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. So it does say for each opponent here. So I guess this is also possible to see play, I guess, in commander decks, right? When you've got multiple opponents. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff for 3 mana. What's next? We got Sigarda's Splendor, an enchantment. So this thing is a bit complicated, right? But basically you got to keep track of your life when it enters, and when it becomes your turn again, if you got equal or more life, you can draw a card at your upkeep. So cool things, but I mean 4 mana for something that doesn't really do anything when it enters, we'll have to see. Vanquish of the Horde here. Now there's a lot of talk about this card being the new all-time Wrath of the God ability, because paying 1 less for each creature on the battlefield, people are thinking, yeah, maybe being able to cast this for 2 mana. Yeah, it's a really good card, I guess. We'll have to see how it performs, but I think it's going to be a staple from here on in any of those control decks looking to destroy all creatures on the board. So really good card there. And then we got Visions of Glory. So this is a commander card, right? So it's only in the set boosters that you can find these. So you can create a white token for each creature you control. That's actually pretty good, and it has flashback. So yeah. I don't know what that's worth in Commander. I'd have to do some more consulting with the Commander players and Goblins. Next are the Mythics here. We got Intrepid Adversary. So we've noticed that in the Mythic slots, I think for every color, they have a card where you can pay an additional cost as it enters the battlefield, right? So it's a bit like a kicker. What does he do? When he enters, you can pay an additional 1 and 1 white. Any number of times you choose. So if you can pay more, you can put in as much mana as you want, I guess. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many Valor counters on Intrepid Adversary. Creatures you control get +1 for each Valor counter on Intrepid Adversary. That's a lot of stuff when it enters. I mean, you can just pump your whole team and try and swing in for lethal. I think, yeah, it's pretty strong. And it has lifelink for the extra little, nod. Next, the Guardian Savior here, a Flying Angel. Typical of Innistrad, also Angel. So when it enters, you can return up to 2 creatures, put mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So yeah, it's a lot of mana though for a 3/3 flyer. Enduring Angel, this is flying double strike, and you have hexproof. Yeah, that's the card that basically saves your life if you're about to die. It will transform, puts you back to 3 life, and have an angel attacking that. When it attacks, you get to double your life. So yeah, it gets bigger and bigger. And then Avacyn's Memorial here. So indestructible, other legendary permanents you control have indestructible. Here, I don't know about this card. I think there are better versions. I think it's more for the the statue of Avacyn herself. Just a reminder because it was a big character in the Innistrad plane. Okay, so that's for white. Let's go to the blues. So we got Miss 13 hands here. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. So I really like this card. Lots of flavor. Trying to draw all those cards and I don't know if it's possible, but getting 13 cards is probably something feasible, and it's an instant win condition. So I really like it. Really flavorful. And then we have a Malevolent Hermit here. So a 2/1 for 2. You can sacrifice him for a blue to counter a non-creature spell unless that controller plays 3. And then later, when you sacrifice him, you can always pay its Disturb mechanic, and then it will come back to the battlefield as a 2/2 flyer, and non-creature spells you control can't be countered. So that's I like this card. I find it very, very cool, very versatile. A nice one. Suspicious Stowaway here can be blocked. This is in that rogue, right? It's a human rogue werewolf. That's pretty original. Whenever Suspicious Stowaway deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card and then discard a card. So, but if it were to become a Nightbound, then he'll transform into a Seafaring Werewolf. Same thing though, he still can't be blocked, and when he touches a player, he'll let you draw a card. So yeah, I like that card, pretty good. Partition Geist here for the Spirit Knight, because spirits are also a very common creature here on Innistrad. Other spirits you control get +1/+1. Spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. So yeah, I like that card a lot too. Blue has some really cool cards running down the rally there. So for more mana here, we got Memory Deluge. So this lets you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast a spell. So that would be 4, right? Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and it has flashback. So flashback, also one of those mechanics that are typical to Innistrad. So we're going to see a lot of cards having that effect. We got the Grafted Identity here. So again, this looks like it's basically you could sacrifice a creature to take control of an opponent's creature. So it's a typical blue card, I'd say. The Sludge Monster here, a horror. So when Sludge Monster enters the battlefield or attacks, you put a slime counter on up to 1 other target creature. Non-horror creatures with slime counters on them lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 2 and 2. So that's also a weird card. Curse of the Surveillance here for the odd artwork with the eyes in the hand. I gotta say, it's pretty creepy. It's a curse, so you can enchant a player. At the beginning of an enchant player's upkeep, any number of target players other than that player each draw a card equal to the number of curses attached to that player. So yeah, that's a political card. I guess it actually fits in those commander decks, I guess. Trying to get some people to be your friends. Spectral Adversary here for the Mythic. So Flash Flying, which was always... That's always cool for me. When Spectral Adversary enters the battlefield, you can pay an additional 1 and a blue any number of times, so like the previous Mythic. When you do this 1 or more times, put that many +1/+1 counters on Spectral Adversary. Then up to that many other target artifacts, creatures, and or enchantments phase out. So yeah, I guess you can protect a lot of stuff and swinging a blocker out of nowhere. Pretty cool. The Puppet Stitcher here. A human wizard, so whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 black zombie creature with Decayed. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more tokens, you can transform the Puppet Stitcher, and then he's going to become the factory, I guess, of zombies, right? Creature tokens you control lose all abilities, and all have base power 3 and 3. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may transform Puppet. So you get to choose if you want to leave it as the factory or turn it back into the... what is it? Forgot his name. Can you go? Yeah, the Puppet Stitcher, right? And then the Puppet Factory. It's Puppet in both names. I thought so. For a 5-drop here, we got Lear, Disciple of the Drowned. So Squee and I, we talked about this. We think it's a really powerful card. So spells can't be countered, and each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. So basically, this lets you recast any card in your graveyard, and they can't be countered on top of that. So I know 5 mana is a lot for a 3/4, but if you can get it on the battlefield and keep it there, I think you can be going a long way. Visions of Duplicity here for the commander card. So exchange control of 2 target creatures you don't control. And so yeah, that's it for the blue. That's true. The commander cards, some are only going to be seen, of course, in the set boosters, but of course they won't be drafted with, right? So those cards are a bit on their own. So for the blacks here, we got Champion of the Perished for the 1-drop. This is a wink to Champion of the Parish, which was a white card. So this guy says when zombies enters the battlefield, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of the Perished, and in the old card it was whenever a human entered, a +1/+1 counter. Jadar, the Ghoul Caller of Nephalia, who, yeah, basically at the beginning of your end step, if you control no creatures with Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature with Decayed. Slaughter Specialist here for another 2-drop. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent creates a 1/1 white human. When a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on a Slaughter Specialist. So it's pretty good because it's already a 3/3 for 2. So you can give them the 1 token. I guess it's really good for aggro decks. I misread the card. I forgot it's a really big body, right? I'd like to see how this one's going to operate if you get the rare in a draft. You got Curse of Leeches here for another curse. Yeah, we talked about this one was really funny. So at the beginning of Enchanted player's upkeep, they lose a life and you gain a life. However, if it becomes Nightbound, this thing's going to transform and become a big 4/4 lifelink that's probably going to try and swing at you. So be careful for the Leech Horror over there. Okay, for a bit more mana, we got the Graveyard Trespasser with a ward. So if you want to target it, you're going to have to discard a card. When it enters or attacks, you can exile up to 1 target creature from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, you drain 1 life. And if it becomes nighttime, she will... Whoops, sorry there, I think we went too fast. Can we transform that? Maybe we can't transform the Graveyard Trespasser, but that's fine. It's going to become a 4/4 werewolf, letting you exile 2 cards from the opponent's graveyard instead. Next, we got the Mask of Grizzlebrand. Crypt creature has flying and lifelink, so this is again a wink to a creature from the initial Abyssin Restored. When a crypt creature dies, you may pay X life, where X is its power. If you do, draw X cards. So yeah, that's a little tiny reminder, I guess. But the mask is funny. I liked it better on the demon. Giza, Glorious Resurrector. A human wizard. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So that's always a good anti-graveyard kind of mechanic, right? If you don't want cards going in your opponent's graveyard, that's always a good thing. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Giza, Glorious Resurrector, man, I'm going to have a hard time with this one, onto the battlefield under your control. They gain Decayed. And then we have a Bloodline Culling, where you can choose 1, target creature gets -5 until end of turn, target tokens get -2 until end of turn. That's interesting. So you can either target 1 big creature, or if you're playing against a tokens deck, this is pretty much a board wipe. It's a nice card, Bloodline Culling. Okay, what else we got? We got Mythics, I think. Yeah, so here we go. Tainted Adversary being that Mythic that needs you to pay an additional cost. Well, you don't need to, but you can as many times as you want. And when you do it with him, you get, what do you get? You get, when you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many +1/+1 counters on Tainted Adversary, then create twice that many 2/2 black zombie creatures with Decayed. Okay, yeah, that's a powerhouse, I guess. But you're going to need a lot of mana to get these things working, right? I admit that the 2 mana in the beginning looks really appealing, but when you want to add things up, I guess you want to be casting it for at least 5 minimum, right? Anyways, next, the Meat Hook Massacre. Now, there's a lot of talk about this card because it's clearly very powerful. So when it enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X until end of turn, X being the mana you poured into it. So after you've killed all the creatures, it stays on the battlefield, and whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 1 life. So that's a lot of stuff there for 2 mana, or maybe even just 3. Can do I like that card. The art is a bit sketchy there. When you see a butcher cutting hands in the back. I guess I like hands in this set. Next, we got Jaren, Corrupted Bishop, a legendary creature here, human cleric. When he enters the battlefield or another non-token human you control dies, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 white human creature token. For 2, target human you control gains lifelink until the end of turn. And at the beginning of your end step, if you have exactly 13 life, you may pay 6. If you do, we'll transform Jaren, and he'll become a 6/6 flying trample lifelink with the clause sacrifice another creature, draw a card. So yeah, if this thing transforms, you're going to have to deal with it real quick. We got Lord of the Forsaken for 6 mana of flying trample demon. Sacrifice another creature, target player mills 3 cards. Or you can pay 1 life and add a manaless color to your pool. Spend this mana only to cast spells from your graveyard. And then we have a Visions of the Dread here. So this is the commander card. Target opponent puts a creature card of their choice from their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So lots of mind games. This is probably my favorite one. So you basically, whoever's got the best deck and has got a dead creature in their graveyard, you just cast that and ask if you can have it, right? Okay, so that's for black. Moving on, we got red. So red are vampires usually, or werewolves. In this first one is the Falcon Rat Pit Fighter, a vampire warrior. So a 2/1 for 1, which is already pretty good stats. For 2 mana, discard a card, sacrifice a vampire, draw 2 cards, activate only if an opponent lost life this turn. Well, if it's dropping on turn 1, you'd probably be able to do it on turn 2. Light up the knight here for some damage to the face of your choice. Curse of the Shaken Fate. So this is a curse again, enchant player. Whenever enchant player casts a spell other than the first spell they cast each turn, or copies a spell, Curse of Shaken Fate deals 2 damage to them. So this is a punishment card. Yeah, these are aggro decks are going to like this one, I think. And last here is also a speculated card, Smoldering Egg. So this is a reminder of Thing in the Ice, in red though this time. So it's a Defender 0/4 for 2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a number of Ember counters on Smoldering Egg equal to the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Then, if the egg has 7 or more Ember counters, we'll transform it, and it will become the Ashmount Dragon, a 4/4 dragon for flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Ashmount Dragon deals 2 damage to any target. So this is a real powerhouse in my opinion. Be looking out for that card, you guys. Strong stuff. In the next, we got the Reckless Stormseeker here for a human werewolf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +0/+1 and gains haste until end of turn. And it can transform then into a nightmare when it becomes a werewolf, sorry. And it basically becomes a 3/4 with the same abilities, except that it's trample instead of haste. Geist Flame Reservoir. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Geist Flame Reservoir. Remove any number of charge counters from the Geist Flame. It deals damage to any target, so that's really interesting. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Really good card. I like that one. Burn down the house. So you get to choose one, either 5 damage to each creature and each Planewalker, or create 3 1/1 Devil tokens. Vision of Ruins and Curse of Obsessions here are the commander cards, as you can see again. Curse of Obsession for me is the better card, letting you draw 2 at the beginning of your upstep. If you're playing aggro, of course, you'll have to discard at the end, but being able to draw an additional card at each upkeep when you have no more gas is always a good thing. So yeah, that's red rares for you right there. We got the red mythics, the bloodthirsty adversary. So I guess they're all called adversaries. This one has haste, and with the additional cost, you'll be able to put again that many +1/+1 counters on the adversary, and then exile up to that many target instant or sorcery cards with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard and copy them. You may cast any number of these copies without paying their mana cost. Wow, that's also a lot of stuff for 2 mana initially. Well, I say again 5, but lots of things are happening when you are able to cast that. So Sunstreak Phoenix here. It's a Phoenix. There's always an edition where they pop up. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day as Sunstreak Phoenix enters the battlefield, which makes sense. That's pretty flavorful, right? Phoenix is there, sunrise. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you may pay 2. If you do, return Sunstreak Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So yeah, very, the phoenixes do. They come back. They're really hard to kill. And then we have the Moonveil Regent here, the dragon 4/4 flying. Whenever you cast a spell, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw a card for each of that spell's colors. When Moonveil Regent dies, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Again, a lot of text for 4/4 dragon there. But yeah, lots of spec. Apparently it's a really good card, so we'll be keeping an eye on that one too. Next color will be green. So green has also got lots of stuff going for it. We got the Willowgeist for 1/1 trample. Whenever one or more cards leaves your graveyard, put a +1 counter on Willowgeist. When Willowgeist dies, you gain life equal to its power. So yeah, really good 1-drop. I think you can get that thing going for a mono green. You know, I like it. Briarbridge Tracker here for a Human Scout. A 2/3 Vigilance for 3. When it enters the battlefield, you can investigate. As long as you control a token, Briarbridge gets +2/+0. Note that when you investigate, you create a clue token. So by it entering, you will already have that trigger. So it'll be a 4/3 for 3. Really good card. Augur of Autumn. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands from the top of your library. And then it's got Coven. So as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library also. So yeah, I like that card. It's very, very interesting. Sereth, the Viper's Fang. So we've seen this. Your tapped creatures have Death Touch, and untapped creatures have Hexproof. And for 1, you can untap another creature or a land you control. So yeah, what's next for the green here? Unnatural Growth. So an enchantment at the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. Wow, that's 4 forests to cast. It's heavy, but that is a powerful effect if you're running a creature-heavy deck. That's interesting card. Storm the Festival here. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put up to 2 permanent cards with mana value 5 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Okay. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And a flashback. That could be pretty powerful. If you know exactly what the best cards of 5 value or less, 5 mana or less are to go seeking, but it is a big heavy mana cost. We'll have to see. Tovolar Huntmaster. So this is actually an interesting card. So for 6, it enters as a 6/6 and it's going to create 2 green wolves to help you. And if it becomes Nightbound, he'll transform into a 7/7, and when he attacks, you can again create 2/2 green wolves creature tokens, and for 4, you can actually have it deal fight another target creature. So it's a really, really good card. I know 6 mana is a lot, but what it does for that, it can go away with the game. And then we got Visions of Dominance here. This is the commander card. And like I said, I like the art because it's a reminder of a creature from the earlier set. So it's from Shadows over Innistrad. That little frog wants to become that big frog horror, right? So just A+ for the art. What do we got in the Mythics? What do you got? Red and 7, yeah. Primal Adversary. So this is the adversary for green then. It has Trample. When it enters, you can play 2 extra times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many +1/+1 counters. So that's basically the same text for all colors, I'm pretty sure. Then, up to that many target lands you control become 3/3 wolf creatures with haste that are still lands. Okay. So yeah, this is they all look like creatures that are, going to set you up for building up your board or trying to do a lethal attack. So yeah, interesting cards, these adversaries. Consuming Blob. It's an ooze. Enters equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. And its toughness is equal to that +1. Okay, yeah, those are those stars numbers, right? At the beginning of your end step, create a green ooze creature token. This creature's power is equal to the number of card types. So it's basically the same text over and over again. So it replicates itself. Okay, interesting card there. Red and 7 for the Planeswalker. Lots of abilities, right? I think it's for special decks. So for +1, you can reveal top 4 and put lands this way into your hand, the rest into your graveyard. So I guess you can animate, if you're looking to put creature cards in your graveyard, it's a really good trigger. For 0, you can put lands from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. For -3, you can create a green tree folk with reach. Power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. So that's going to be a big creature, a big tree folk. That's pretty good. And of course, it's got an emblem. No, it's got a -8 ultimate. Return all permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. Okay, so I like the artwork there for Renin 7. Nice card. What's next? We got multicolored. Right, Hallowed Respite. I like this card. Exile target non-legendary creature, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Sorry. If it entered under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Otherwise, tap it. So this is basically you're going to be looking for cards that have entered the battlefield effects, and using this spell is going to be able to make you just re-trigger that one additional time with flashback, maybe for even a third time. So a cool card for 2 mana. Denik, Pious Apprentice also. Azorius has some really nice cards. Lifelink, 2/3 for 2. Cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities, and it has Disturb, right? So if it dies, it will come back and then flip into Denik, Pious Apparition for a flying 3/2. Whenever one or more creature cards are put into the graveyards from anywhere, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. That's too bad. If Denik, Pious Apparition, we put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Okay. Then we got Ludovic, the Necro Genius. Whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, you can mill a card. And then you have an extra cost here. You can exile X creature cards from your graveyard and transform Ludovic. And X can't be 0, of course, and then he will transform into a zombie. As this creature transforms into Olag, Ludovic's Hubris, it becomes a copy of a creature card exiled with it, except its name is Olag, Ludovic's Hubris. It's a 4/4. It's a legendary blue and black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on Olag equal to the number of cards exiled with it. Wow, that's a lot of text there for Olag. Siphon's Insight here for Demir. Look at the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down and put the other one on the bottom of that library. You may look at and play the exile card for as long as it remains exiled. And you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell with flashback. Look at these paragraphs in these cards, Squee. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what cards are going to be the strongest, but I believe there's a lot of potential here. What's next? We got a Florian Voldarian Scion, so a Vampire Noble. First strike, 3/3 for 3. Those are good stats, right? At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, so that's right after the damage, right? Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the total amount of life your opponent lost this turn. Exile one of those cards and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may play the exile card this turn. So this will give you additional gas if you're, in an aggro deck trying to get, some damage on your opponent and then give you some extra cards in return. Walk to Slaughter here. So choose up to 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. An opponent chooses one of them, return that card to your hand, return the other to the battlefield under your control. It gains haste, and then you have to exile it at the beginning of the next end step with flashback. Again, these are paragraph cards. I used to remember more simple Magic days where cards were very basic, But then again, that's why Magic has become so interesting. So Dire Strain Rampage here, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. If a land was destroyed this way, its controller may search their library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Otherwise, its controller may search the library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Flashback. Okay, more interesting here. Tovolar, Dire Overlord, for the legendary creature, a human werewolf. When a wolf or a werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night and then transform Tovolar into the Midnight Scourge. Same thing, if you deal combat damage, you get to draw a card. And for an additional cost here, you can give a target wolf or werewolf you control +X and gains trample till end of turn. That's a lot of power. I really like that card. Rules also got some stuff going. So yeah, Celestia here for the Rite of Harmony. Whenever a creature or enchantment enters the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card, flashback. That's a combo-y card, I think. Catilda, Dawnheart Prime, legendary creature, a human warlock, protection from werewolves. This could be interesting given the amount of werewolves that are going to be in the set. Human creatures you control add 1 mana of any of this creature's colors. So yeah, that's very interesting if you want to ramp into bigger creatures. And for 6, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That's a good card. I like that one. It's probably going to fit into my humans deck, I'm sure. Old Stick Fingers here for a legendary horror. When you cast a spell, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your graveyard, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Old Stick Fingers' power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So yeah, you want to be putting some creatures in the graveyard pretty early, and then this thing is going to be equal to the number in your graveyard. So that could be a 3/3, 4/4 real quick. Good card. I like it. Ghoul-Caller's Harvest. Yeah, again, create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed, where X is half of the number of creature cards in your graveyard, rounded up with flashback. So yeah, these two cards, they go well together, right? They want creatures in the graveyard to be able to power up their own abilities. Really interesting. Okay, next combination of color is Boros with the Angel Fire Ignition. So for 3 mana, you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. It will gain Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste until end of turns. That's a lot of abilities. And you can give that card flashback to do it another time. Rem, Careless Stalwart Slayer for a legendary creature here, a human knight, flying haste. If a spell would deal damage to you or another permanent you control, prevent that damage. If a spell would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals damage +1 instead. Lots of stuff again for 3 mana. I think this is going to be a powerful set, guys. I won't lie. Can't stay away here for the Orzhov colors. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you could go get Laris, for example. That works. It gains. If this creature would die, exile it instead. And it has flashback. Okay. And then we got a typical Orzhov Angel here, flying lifelink. Whenever another creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Okay, a lot of mana there for a 4/4 flying. Galvanic Iteration here for the Izzet color spells. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You can choose new targets, and you can flashback. So it's, I think this card's going to be played. We'll see. It's probably going to be tested. Vadrik here, Astral Archmage. I'm personally a fan of this one. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day as Vadrik enters. Instants and sorcery spells you control cost X less to cast, where X is Vadrik's power. So in this case, 1, unless you make it bigger. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadrik. So yeah, I like this. A good mechanic. Croaking Counterpart here for the Simic. So you get to create a token that's a copy of a non-frog creature, except it's a 1/1 green frog. So you're going to want to try and wait. Can you target? You can actually target opponent's creatures actually. So if a opponent has a really big creature, you can just turn it into a 1/1 frog. So that's typical for the Simic colors. It has flashback. Then we have Slogurk, the Overslime, another ooze. Trample. Whenever a land card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, put a +1 counter on him. Remove 3 counters from Slogurk. Return it to its owner's hand. So you can protect it after, I guess. Cool. And when it leaves the battlefield, return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Okay. That's a big... lots of mechanics around that card. It'll be interesting. I'm not a Simic player myself, so Simic players are going to have to teach me how all these shenanigans work. Okay. Next, we have some Mythics here in the multicolored. Teferi came back. So first time we see him on Innistrad. For 1, you can you can tap up to 1 target creature, or untap another permanent, and then you gain 2 life, right? For -2, look at the top 3 cards of your library. That's pretty much a brainstorm. And your emblem is untap all permanents you control during each opponent's untap step, and you draw a card during each opponent's draw step. So basically, you get to play during their turn also. Yeah, that's scary. Sigarda, Champion of Light here, a 4/4 flying 4/4. Albeit the mana is going to be kind of tricky. Flying Trample, and all your humans get +1/+1. And if you have the Coven mechanic, you can reveal a human creature card when she attacks and put that into your hand from your library. Yeah, Arlen, the Pack's Hope, sorry. Legendary Planeswalker, so she's the Werewolf Planeswalker. When it's day, until your next turn, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and it will enter with a +1/+1 counter on it. Or for -3, put 2 green wolf creature tokens onto the battlefield. It can flip after if it becomes night. into Arlen the Moon's Fury, which lets you either add mana to your mana pool or transform it into a 5/5 werewolf creature with trample, indestructible, and haste. So yeah, those are the mythic multicolored. Lots of power there. Scary stuff. I wonder if there's going to be a werewolf deck in Standard. Last are the commander cards. So these are, I guess, commanders, the mythics you want to be representing. So for Selesnya here, we have Lenor, Wisdom Sovereign, letting you put +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, and then if you control 3 or more creature powers, you're going to need the Coven mechanic, to get those counters going. Interesting card. Lindy, Cheerful Tormentor in Grixis colors. This is interesting. So a 2/4 for 4 Dead Touch. Whenever a curse is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return it to the battlefield attached to you at the beginning of your next end step. Okay. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may attach a curse attached to you to one of your opponents. If you do, draw a card. Okay, so it's a switcheroony. Yeah, okay, it comes back. So, but you got to give it to yourself for 1 turn. So there's a little bit of a drawback, right? But you get to draw a card. True, if you do, draw 2 cards. So I like that card. It's interesting. Wilt Health, the Rot Cleaver. Whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, well, you create a 2/2 black zombie with Decayed. And at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie. If you do, draw a card. So yeah, those are the commander cards. I guess those are the mythics. Those are the ones you're looking for if you're trying to get those cards. So yeah, interesting. I really like Lindy, the Cheerful Tormentors. So yeah, these are the land cycles. So so it's the allied colors, right? They enter untapped if it's your 3rd land. Otherwise, they will be entering tapped. So I like the arts. I'm hoping to get some of these in full art. Like I said before, they're really, really nice cards. So yeah, and then there's a new edition. Last one we saw is the Hostile Hostel. Add 1 colorless mana, and for 1 you can sacrifice a creature and put a soul counter on the hostile. Then if there are 3 or more soul counters on it, you can remove it and transform it and untap it. It will become a Creeping In. Very flavorful, I have to admit. When Creeping In attacks, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of creature cards exiled with Creeping In. And for 4, it phases out. So yeah, cool commander card for sure. If you've got some mana, colorless mana to spend, a land that can turn into a creature like that is always interesting. So yeah. Cool things. So that's it. I think we wrapped it up, right? Yep. Thanks for watching, you guys. So we're going to be heading into pre-release Friday. We might make another video until then, but be sure to stay tuned and hit us with a subscribe, a like, or leave a comment down below. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.